Hello, welcome back to Pages into the Past. Welcome to part 2 of my Dirndl, or my gnome outfit. So we're using the Berta pattern again. We did the shirt, and this time we're using the 128 Dirndl. Again, I printed this out. This one's a little bit bigger in sizing. It goes up to their size 52. And so I didn't have to add quite as much. I did take notes of what I was adding. This here, it says what their 52 measurements are, and I'm closer to a 56, so I don't have to add a whole lot, except like in the waist, but that's normal for me. So what I have done is I printed it all out, taped it all together, cut it apart, you know, the good old stuff. This big piece here is the skirt, and when I read what it says on the skirt, it says that you need 2 of the front, 4 of the side, which is the biggest piece, 2 of the back. No, actually it's 1 of the back, but they want it on the fold, so it's double width. 2 of these, 2 of this. They have a seam coming up the front. It's also covered by an apron, so not a great big deal there. So right now we are also working on the bodice. And so the bodice has several different pieces. It has a separate shoulder piece, and then of course your side back, center back. And so when I did all my measurements, I knew that I needed to make it a little bit longer. So I'm adding a couple of inches in length. And then I also needed to make it just a little bit wider. And so what I'm doing is on the center back, center front, and the 2 front pieces, I am adding an inch in width in order to accommodate what I think I'm going to need. And then I'm also going to add seam allowance. So this one here, you can see the green line is my make wider, so that you can split it, make it wider. And then in purple, I have written to add my seam allowance so I don't forget. And so this is where I'm going to be starting on this, kind of going from there. So I think what I'll do is I'm not going to worry about the skirt for a while. I'm going to work on the bodice. Because what it says is on the skirt out of plain fabric, the bodice they want out of like a printed fabric. And then the apron piece is a 3rd fabric. You can use bias to do a lot of things. You can do embroidery work. You can do piping. There's all kinds of things that you can do to make it just a little bit different. And so my thought is I'm going to work on the mock-up first and then see what I have in my purple stash so I can figure out skirt, bodice, apron. I'm feeling purple. I'll have a lot of purple this year, so it will be the year of purple for me. All right, so here we go. I got it all traced out, ready to go, added all of my seam allowances and width adjustments and length adjustments and all that. So now I'm going to stitch this together with the exception of the center front, because they call for either hook and eye or a zip. Actually, they call for a zipper, but I might do hook and eye. But I'll see how we fit and see what adjustments have to be made, and I will show you that here next. Okay, everybody, here is the mock-up. This is with the added length. Shoulder piece just kind of lays there. Probably fold over the back, and then here's the back. Lots of room. Side seam is almost perfect down the side. I mean, this will be super comfortable. So I think I'm going to do a little minor adjustment, more of a angle this way when I do it, because it's just a little bit too big here, but it's big enough here. But with the inches that I added seems to have been enough. I also lengthened it, remember, because I lengthened it 2 inches. So if my natural waist is here, everybody is covered. The skirt will attach. Yeah, I think I did it this time. All right, so I'm going to tear this apart, use this for a pattern piece after I make my little adjustments here. and call that good. Because with this here, that's not pulling, it's not super sticking out. So yeah, I think this is a good fit. All right, now to more sewing. Well, I'm jumping ahead a bit here, and I just figured I'd let you know what's going on. So what I did is I had some of my skirt material left over. So what I did is I created piping. I used a thicker than I probably should have cording. I cut a 3-inch wide strip, stitched it down using my zipper foot, and then this is the lining. So you can see here, lining is together. In the actual outside, I put the piping in and stitched it all down and then top stitched it in place. So here is the interface, outer shell, and the lining. I chose to do the same color just because I had the extra fabric and I wasn't worried about, trying to have it contrasting, and just in case parts of it show, I figure that was easier. All right, so next step is to sew the shell and the lining together, and I'm going to sew that all together with the exception of the bottom and the very front. The very front I need to adjust for either buttons or zipper and then get the fit right. The skirt will attach to the bodice, and I believe what I'll do is I'll encase the bodice. I'll put the skirt and then the lining so that it's all hidden inside the raw edge. So I think what I will do is I'm going to put the bodice together with the exception of the front, and then I'm going to work on the skirt. The skirt, when I get that done and gathered into the waist, then I will put the zipper or buttons so that I know how much to take in. So that's the plan for today. It's currently snowing outside, so I'm hoping that to stay warm and kind of go forward from there. Moved on to the skirt. Woohoo! And so this is, there are 4 side panels, 1 front panel, no, that's the back panel, 4 side panels, and the front panel. And the zipper is supposed to go in the front, so we shall see what kind of zipper I can find, and if I will continue with a zipper or if I will go with buttons. I don't have to make that decision right now. All right, so I have serged all my edges. I've marked my pocket pieces because what it says to do is sew everything together except for where those pocket pieces are in order to do the cartridge pleating around the skirt. And then after you've cartridge pleated, then you add the pockets in. And I think it's because the pockets attach up here and they want this sewn so you can do the cartridge pleating, and then you attach to the pocket over the top of your cartridge pleating. That's what makes sense to me. We are on to the next step of our project, and part of our directions here show that pleating does not do the front panel. It does the sides and the back, which it does say here to pin pleating tape to the side and back of the skirt next to seam allowance. So one of the issues that it says, well, one of my issues is it says to use a 2-inch wide pencil pleating tape. Well, I don't have that. What I do have is some thrift store find of some pleating tape. It is only 1 inch wide and not 2 inches wide. So the beauty of this is when you pull it closed, it has these really beautiful pleats. Let me see if I can zoom in here for you. So look at how beautiful those pleats are. So what I think I'm going to do is I will stitch this to the edge of the skirt, just down a little bit so that it'll have a fold over. Or maybe I'll figure this one out. It says to pin pleating tape inside upper edge on side and back next to seam allowance. So there's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so we're going to just go down 1/2 inch. And then you're going to stitch in between the drawstring part just to give it some grip. You will stitch on the outside, maybe 1 or 2 on the inside and on the outside here, so that when you pull it, it really is attached. It's attached to your fabric so that the fabric gives you this lovely pleat look. And then I will pull it to fit. After that's done, it says to add the pocket. So what I did on the pocket seams and the front seam, because the front has a zipper, I did not close them all the way. So here is the pocket seam, and the pocket will get added after the pleating tape is on and after it's pulled. And I think the reason is so that after it's all pleated, that when you attach this part here and you stitch this in, that it will be able to attach up here at that extra ½ inch. You can tack it and all the pleating will still be underneath of it. And that way you're not getting this super pleated up here and distorting your pocket. And then for the center front, I left it open from where the zipper, or if I ended up putting buttons on, if I'm gonna add a placket for the buttons. Again, I haven't gone through my zipper stash, so I don't know what I'm gonna use yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach this pleating tape, and then I'll show you how much fun it is to pull the pleat. What I've done is I sewed down at the bottom, up at the top, and then down the center. So here's what we are hoping will happen, is that we're going to pull and shift our pleat so that once they get stacked, this is how they look. And this will be the outside of the dress where they see the pleating. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna keep pulling until I get it to the right shrinkage, adjust all of my pleats. Some of them may be spaced out further, depending on how much I need to pull in. It might be super tight, but I'm gonna measure where the pieces to the front attach on the pattern or on the dress. It looks like it lines up with these front curves, the side fronts. So I will measure on my bodice how far around I need to go, and then I will pull these strings to match that measurement. All right, we're getting to the good part. So I added the pockets. I don't know if I like adding them this way, but it's a little bit trickier because you can't sew all the way up on the pocket. I understand the concept of keeping it free from the gathers, but I don't know that I'm a big fan. We got the pockets, we got the pleating all kind of evened out. And so the next step is to base the upper pocket edges to upper skirt and then stitch the skirt to the bodice. So I guess I'm gonna get closer to having to decide whether I'm gonna do buttons or zippers or a zipper. So, okay, well, it's snowing. My granddaughter just came over, so I'm gonna call it good for the night. I'm gonna go visit. And tomorrow I will hit this with fresh eyeballs. I pinned the skirt to the bodice and then I went to try it on. Don't do that. There were so many pins poking me in the ribs and the side and all my little squishy bits. Oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. Don't do that. So then what I did is I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna stitch it down real quick. Make sure when you stitch it down real quick that you use basting stitches and not standard stitches because it took a while to take apart. So now I am back to trying it on again. So I tried my bodice on and it's a little too long. It's funny though, because the exact 2 inches that I think I added to the length, that's about how too long it is. But I think because this is a high waist and not where I do my normal waist. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna cut that down or leave it long. I might just leave it long. If I leave it long, I have to expand the gathers just a little bit because it only gathered to this first part and it didn't include this part here. So I have to add an extra 2.5 inches on each side or 5 inches total on this waist, spreading it out. The downside of that is that I already cut the strings on this and double knotted it and cut the strings instead of waiting. So don't do that either. Wait until you've got it all the way done before you cut the strings, because now I'm not sure what I'm gonna do in order to widen this out. I will figure something out, even if it's just adjusting this front panel just a little bit here to maybe the gathers don't start until this section here and these 2 panels don't have gathers. It will be different from the picture, but that might be where I can make up some of the width that I need. So that sounds like a plan. Now, I've also been saying buttons or zipper, what am I gonna do? Well, I don't have any buttons that I like to go with this. I don't have a zipper long enough because I need it to go from here to the bottom of the skirt. And it's telling me that I need like a 14-inch zipper, or a 16-inch zipper. And I don't have that in any other color but white. So my thought is that I'm gonna use hook and eye tape because the bottom half of this is gonna get covered with an apron. And so the top half being hook and eye, if I needed to adjust it, I can adjust it in the seam part here, or I can adjust the seam easier than a zipper because I can undo it by half. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Saw a video yesterday where the gal was talking about making sure that we tell everybody of the mistakes that we make. I think I do pretty good when I tell you guys that, you know, have oops moments, but I still have my friends. When we have our weekly sewing circle, they come over and I go, oh yeah, I got to get the seam ripper out, or I sewed that wrong. And they go, what? You made a mistake? Oh my goodness. And I'm sorry, I make mistakes all the time. Everybody does. You cannot be perfect. So don't try to be perfect in your sewing. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go back to doing my duty here and figuring out how I'm going to widen that in order to accommodate where I need it to be wide enough. So hopefully the next time you see me, this skirt will be attached and all I will have left to do is the hook and eye tape. And then I'm thinking about whatever decoration I'm going to put around here. And the hem. Still quite a bit to do, but always one step closer. All right, I'll be back. I went ahead and readjusted the pleating and just kind of opened that up a little bit, made those a little bit tighter. And then I sewed it all down, tried it on without poking myself this time. And now I am sewing the lining down. I decided to go with hook and eye, and I went ahead and stitched down the hooks, the eyes, and all of that. And when I'm doing the lining, I'm folding it back just a little bit extra so that it's not catching here in the eye part for when I go to hook it with the hooks. They are just barely underneath. So in all reality, and if I mathed correctly, when I hook this, it should close. So you see very minimal of the white. I do have a purple permanent color marking art pen I ordered, and if I have to, I can change that white, but I think I've got them inset just enough to where they will overlap, and it's just loose enough that it's not going to pull at the bra line, so I shouldn't have any problem with it closed. But once I get this lining sewn in, I will put it on and show you what it looks like. And I'm hand sewing again, so this will probably take me a good hour, because I've got to do the front all the way around and then back up the front on the other side. And then I can try it on, and then I can mark the hem, and today or tomorrow this part will be done. I still have to make the apron, and then once the apron's done, then this outfit will be complete, and I will post my video showing you how, well, I'll post this video and it'll be ready for the next phase. All right, guys, well, I'm gonna go start hand sewing, and I will check back in with you in a couple of hours. So right now, I have the bodice, the dress done, the hat done. I added some lace trim here that I then threaded some really thin ribbon, and I have my lacing rings with my faux lacing up front. So, all right, now onto the apron. All right, I'll be back. So now we are onto the apron, and I found this lovely lightweight cotton, very sheer. And I think it'll go really well with my dress. It's got purples and yellows and whites and very spring-like. So on the pattern, or the instructions, there's directions here that say, for the apron, it says to apron piece ABC. And because I didn't read all the way through the directions and comprehend them the first time, I sent a note off to Berta. And then I figured out what I was doing wrong, and then they responded back and said that the directions are here on the sheet. And it says A, B, and C off to the side, and whatever size that you are doing, what your measurements should be. They're both in centimeters and inches. And so because I'm a little bit bigger than the pattern, I looked at the directions again and went to see how many sizes up that I wanted to be from, especially the waistline measurement. I figured I was going to need to go up, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 full sizes. And so when I did the little math part of the width and the measurements, I think I ended up, I wrote it down on the back here. I ended up with what measurements I needed. And then because it was so close to a 45 inch of fabric, I just wrote 44 inches because, you know, that way I didn't have to cut the sides. And then I found this fabric, which is 60 inches, and went, well, that's not really gonna work. So I figured the extra gathers aren't gonna hurt. It'll just make it a little bit more gathered up at the waist. I measured the length, and this one was about an inch shorter than the actual dress, is your finished length. But there were some very confusing notes on here, because it was saying to get this top part all squished down into a 31 inches to go around the waist, and I felt like that might be too skinny. And so I think what I'm going to do is gather it down. I don't remember how far. I think it was going to be more than 31 inches. And then they really didn't give you a length, or maybe the length was 31 inches, and I shortened that up. And then the width that they were going to have you gather it down to was like an undetermined amount. So I measured on my dress panel, or on my dress, and I'm going to gather it down to 24 inches. The directions were not 100% oh, here it is. Okay, so here they said to gather it down to a width the size follows to 33.5 inches, but they continuously add up. So depending on what size, it goes from like 30 to 32 to 33.5. So I'm gonna go up until I meet the 60 and gather it to that amount. I kind of have a rough estimate. And then I'm gonna use the same gathering strips or the pleating tape that I have. And then you cut the waist part separate from the ties. And so the pattern pieces weren't actually pattern pieces, but they were just put on a piece of fabric saying this is how you can cut it out. So right now we're going to sew the apron. I already did the side hems just because it made more sense in my head for gathering and before attaching everything. Then I'm going to sew this part down and gather it into the appropriate width. And because this is wider, I'm hoping it'll give a little bit better pleat and maybe a nicer coverage for it. And then it says to add your waistband, fold your waistband in half, stitch on your ties, yada, yada, yada. And then hem the bottom of that apron. And I think that will be done. And then I will give you a try on. I'm gonna order me some purple striped socks to go with it because everything in this is purple. I just haven't decided if I want purple and white or purple and black. I'm drawn to purple and black, but because of the white apron and the white blouse, it might be purple and white. Or maybe I'll just order one of each, and I don't know. But that's where we're at today. And so it is cold. It is snowing again. I'm gonna see how far I can get with this today before I get too cold. So you guys have a great day, and I will show you this as I go. I've got this all pulled down, and I reread my directions. What I was reading before was for the main skirt, not the apron. The apron says to, depending on what size, they go from 17 to 19. I calculated gathering it down to about 24 inches, 22 to 24 inches. So when I gathered all my strings, this is how it turned out. Really pretty looking pleat. So now the next step is to attach the waistband, because the waistband will go further than the skirt. And so the directions said to press this in half. Then we're gonna attach it, fold waistband in half, stitch unfold, stitch waistband to upper apron edge, matching center, leaving the ends extended. So then after that, you add the high band, and yeah. So I waited to do the bottom hem just to see how much, after I get the waistband added, what my length is on my dress form. And then that will be the last of it, and then you'll get a full video. So I think this is gonna be my last update because, again, I'm not gonna cut these down yet. I learned my lesson the first time, just so you know. All right, I'm going to keep on sewing, and then I'll give you a model demonstration of my outfit sans stockings, or I'll find some stockings that are just like black and white generic, and we'll show you what it looks like from there. Okay, I'm all done with my little gnome dress. Dum da da. Okay, so got the apron done, have the dress done, got my hat done. All right, so this is what I'm gonna wear to costume college for the welcome party. And I hope to see you there and have fun. So keep on sewing. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching.